Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, everyone. Well, welcome to, first of all, let me thank InvestorExpos for inviting me back to a presentation. This is David Morgan of The Morgan Report. The website is themorganreport.com. I do a lot of interviews for free for the public at large, investors at large, and of course, I do have a private service, which we'll probably get into later in this lecture, talk, chat, whatever you want to call it. So the title of this presentation is When Crypto Crashes, Where Do Investors Look? And there's really a few bullet points I want to cover, and that's the crypto conspiracy, the silver psyop, is there middle ground? Does Lode have the answer, which is a cryptocurrency backed by gold and silver? Summary will just be some comments by me, and of course I will take questions and answers from you. I think the best way to do it from this format is, I believe it's in the chat box. You can type your questions in. I'll just put it in for now. Type questions here. I'm pretty easygoing most of the time, which means you can type in your questions while I am speaking. I don't have to wait till the end. If I see them, I should have this window open the whole time, I may just jump off of what I'm talking about and take the question, which a lot of times is explain that better, or what about this, or you forgot that, or whatever it happens to be. So it's kind of an interface with me directly as we proceed forward. So one of the first things I wanted to do is get to the website, which most of you know is themorganreport.com. And this is a new landing page. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. It's a landing page. Basically, it's a sales page for you to learn more about the Morgan Report. You should get on our free email list here. You just need a first name and a mail address. You hit join, and we'll send you a autoresponder. We'll send you a message on your email, and it will say, do you really want to subscribe to the free version of Morgan Report? Click yes. And that way, if anything happens on some of my channels, I have been shadow banned for years, but I'm still on YouTube. They've only filed stuff against me a few times. I mean, that could end tomorrow. I have backed up on several other platforms. I can't name them all. I know that Odyssey is one of them. My webmaster did that for me, I'd say at least 2 years ago. So if something happened on YouTube, I would be on other platforms. But the best thing is, if you're on the email list, we have a direct relationship, and that means everything can come through the website. So I'm not sure where this goes. This is the long version of the landing page. So you saw I just clicked that. I'm not trying to do a big sales job here. What I am trying to do is to get you to watch this video. So it's on the landing page. I had to click to get here. I don't know why Bruce changed it, but that's okay. So this video here I did from my car. Certainly not the best looking video ever made. But this video has over 2 million views. And the reason this video has over 2 million views that I did with Stansberry Research, not only is it the most viral video I have ever done, it's the most viral video that Stansberry Research has ever done. And the reason for it is the content. The content is all about bail-ins, not bailouts. In the United States, it's illegal to bail out the banks again. This is under Dodd-Frank bill. And in that legislation, which was passed, the banks are only allowed to bail in, not bail out, which means if you have money in a U.S. bank, you are considered by the bank to be an unsecured creditor, and they consider it their money. If the bank fails or seizes your money, you will get an email, a letter, likely both, hard copy letter in your mailbox and an email telling you that your money has been bailed in and that you are an unsecured creditor and you now have shares in that business, that bank. But now you have shares that are worth whatever the market will bear at any particular time. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just trying to tell the truth and make people aware of it. Since I put this video out, I've gotten many calls. I've got several calls from people that say, hey, David, I've never bought gold before, but I understand what's going on in the banking system. Can you help me? Who do I trust? How do I do it? That kind of thing. And obviously I help them. So that's kind of a pitch on the Morgan report. Let me see if I can get where I want to get, which is to the login page. And let me go back here. Let's see. All right. So the blog is a free feature. And if there's a search bar right up here at the right, you can probably see my cursor. So one of the things you would type in here is crypto. And let's see if I can spell CRYPTO, conspiracy. And this will give you 23 episodes of the crypto conspiracy. Now, unless you're a binge watcher, you're probably not going to watch all 23 episodes. And I get that. But what I will say is that's how you get them all lined up for you with our search engine. I would consider the first episode kind of as a background. The crypto conspiracy, we called it that because, our detractors, the trollers, whatever, will call it that. Oh, this is just a conspiracy theory. So we beat them to the punch. There's not very much conspiracy involved here. The one that I did with, I did a lot of these with John Perez, especially at the beginning. And one of the first ones that I think you should watch, I think it's number 3, which has to do with the links or the ties that Bitcoin has with MIT and the ties that MIT has with Jeffrey Epstein and the ties that Jeffrey Epstein has with everyone, not only from MIT, but throughout the Silicon Valley. So if you really dig deep, and we did dig extremely deep on the crypto conspiracy, if you're involved in any way, or you're thinking of being involved, and you think Bitcoin's the answer, I'm free market. If you think it's the answer, go ahead. But if you really want to do some deep dive into some really true investigative journalism, then you should have a look at least a few of these crypto conspiracies and understand who the most likely, I wouldn't say founder, but one of the most influential and moneyed people to start the process was probably Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not saying he started it exactly, he didn't, but he was involved very early on. Ghislaine Maxwell put in like $1 billion about a year before her arrest. So something to dive into. I'm just going to point out a few others that we did. So number 13 is not it. It's number 14. So let me scroll down again and go one more. So I'd get to number 1 and number 3. Number 14 is after a lot of other interviews and conversations and deep dives and share screens and all the stuff that we've done. But on this one, I invited John back with Kurt Wuckert. Kurt Wuckert is an archivist. He's a historian. Kurt has credibility up the wazoo. Very few people question anything that this man says. And what Kurt did with me and John also on the conversation was basically verify all of the quote unquote conspiracy that we did about Bitcoin. Well, the basic conclusion is that Bitcoin, as innocuous and free market and for the people and distributed ledger and anonymity and all those things that were in the white paper, basically been hijacked and had been hijacked by the banking elite. And had been hijacked by the banking elite, specifically by the people that run MasterCard. Now, I'm saying this, and you could say, well, that's a conspiracy theory, or you could do what I did and dig really deep and dive into the facts. And those facts were verified by Kurt Wuckert. But don't take my word for anything. But don't just fly off emotionally. Have a look. So basically, Bitcoin, whatever the true intent was at the beginning, and I don't know what it is, I will assume that the white paper is basically what the intent was. Certainly, that's how Kurt looks at it. But that has, again, been hijacked by the banking elite. So if you think Bitcoin is all the stuff you were taught in the beginning and what you hear from the maximalists and all these people about Bitcoin is gold 2.0 and all this stuff that you hear, which most of it is just pure rhetoric, hot air, doesn't mean anything other than an emotional tie to something that really is in the ether. It's a software. Have a look at episode 14. That one would be critical if you were going to put substantial money in or have substantial money in Bitcoin. Now, we called the top at 66,000, and we told people that if you're over invested in Bitcoin or crypto markets in general, because everything kind of follows whatever Bitcoin does, probably be a time to take some profits. We wouldn't have to sell everything. It's your choice, but I'm calling this a top. I'm saying the risk is too high, and there's going to be a lot of things happening in the market, particularly from the legislative side and the regulatory bodies. And I couldn't have been more accurate. Absolutely spot on the money. And we have, I don't know how many emails, but close to over 100 at least, thanking us, myself and John Perez, for calling the top, giving us information for free on my website. And John has a Telegram channel, by the way. It's called Silver is Money. You want to find him on Telegram, go to Telegram and type in Silver is Money. You'll find John Perez, and you will see links to some of these podcasts that we did together, some that he's done separately, and a lot of others. So going on, I did did number 15 with this gentleman named Credence from an undisclosed location south of the equator. And he gave me some information that was pretty interesting. This is on the conspiracy side, basically. And he basically got most of his information from this Boyd Anderson. So I went from 15 with Credence that gave us some food for thought into 16, which was Boyd Anderson. And Boyd really, he hit some pretty interesting points about a lot of things, but a lot of it had to tie back into Bitcoin. And then number 19, I would say that's an important one. That's Michael Mckibben. Mr. Mckibben is quite interesting, very astute. Basically started email, and his patent was stolen by what's called the Pilgrim Society. Anyone that's followed me for a long time would be familiar with the Pilgrim Society. We were the first probably on the web to talk about it, way back when the URL for my work was the Silver Investor, or silverinvestor.com, or silver-investor.com, exactly. And a lot of work was done by a gentleman named Charles Savoy, and Charlie wrote about the Pilgrim Society ad nauseum. He covered it in depth. And I certainly have never claimed to know everything, but I knew a lot, or thought I knew a lot about secret societies, the banking elite, the money masters, how the system works. And I did, and I do. But I'm always learning more. And Charlie was the first one to bring to my attention that you might hear about the Freemasons and the Illuminati and the Bilderbergs and Davos and all this stuff, but very few people know about the Pilgrim Society. And so Michael is very tied in because the lawyer that stole the patent worked for the Pilgrims, and that's basically how his work for his investors was usurped by those. So I did another one after 19 with John, back to Michael on the 21st episode. A couple more, kind of a wrap up. I will continue to follow the story, but 23 episodes is quite a bit. And I will be doing some more, but I'll probably take them out of the Crypto Conspiracy series. But I just want to make you aware of them. I don't know how many hours are here but a lot. And again, you wouldn't have to look at them all. But again, if you are going to, if you're in, especially Bitcoin, if you're in cryptos in a big way, I would watch number 14 as a minimum. If you're thinking of getting in a big way, I would watch 14. If you are not involved, I'm not saying not to get involved. I'm still staying with some that I have. I've got one that's non-gold and silver based, and the other one I have is Lode, which is gold and silver based, which I will talk about later on. So that is enough information. By the way, these things are pretty easy to bring up. Let me just do this episode 21. So all you do is click it. And when you click it, you'll have scroll down and get it again. So this will be on YouTube. So you just put your cursor there, watch it on YouTube.
All right.
It'll come up. That's it. And there we go. So pretty simple. I probably didn't need to show you that, but I did. And there is that. So let me go back to all posts. I think I covered the crypto conspiracy. Remember, this is all free information that I produce. My cost, my server, my staff, I pay them all. And I don't ask anyone for any money for this stuff. I do for our premium service, which I'll talk about near the end. Before I forget, the blog is the most important feature of the website, which obviously you've seen that by now. There are links here to our, really don't have a Facebook presence. I've got a LinkedIn presence, a Twitter feed, and a YouTube channel. So for example, you can just click that real quick, and that will bring us to your YouTube channel.
David Morgan.
So that is where all this stuff is posted for years and years. You could sort it by how many hits the video had. Oh, by the way, here's something very interesting. If you subscribe to my channel, I suggest you do, that you go to this community once in a while. And these are videos that I look at and think are extremely important for the community. It's called community. And a lot of times, this one was kind of fun. This is The Return of Elvis Presley. I won't get into that. I watched the movie. I found this when I did some research after watching the Elvis Presley movie, and found this very interesting. So I posted it up for the community. It's not all doom and gloom. So anyway, that's where you get this stuff. I don't know why that's in there twice. Delete one of them. Okay, looks like I did. All right, so that's part of something you should look at once a week. I don't post every week, but there are features here, economic hitman, price of diesel fuel. Read a lot of these to you. Europe's hidden agenda is pretty cool. AI design a plastic enzyme that eats plastic. Design an enzyme that eats plastic. A lot of interesting stuff. Anyway, back to the home.
Joining me today is
and going back to all posts. So the Twitter feed is there. This is run by myself personally, and I do have a couple people that help me that have access to my Twitter login, and they do post stuff from time to time because I trust them. And a lot of stuff I post here isn't necessarily that I agree with it. It's just that I think you need to think about it. I mean, one of my main functions, I believe, is to be an enabler, connector, maven, whatever you want to call me, to help you think through things, use some critical thinking, and make your own evaluation. So that's, if you really want like what I'm doing every day, I post almost every day on this. This most overrated coin in the world had to do with the Silver Eagle. And then I posted something, I think that's the latest one I just did about an hour ago. It talks about swapping Silver Eagles into other forms of silver, which many of the paid members have sent me emails on. I set them up with dealers that I know and trust to make that exchange. So there's that. And LinkedIn, This is mostly business to business. I haven't had a lot of success making connections with people that want to subscribe, but I've certainly gotten a fair amount of interviews from my LinkedIn presence. And, you know, this catchphrase here on LinkedIn is I put serious investors in a calm, focused position. What I want to do. Under these very trying times, there's no real need to overdo anything. You can overdo the metals, you can overdo crypto. And one of the main things that was emphasized over and over again in the crypto conspiracy was risk management. Risk management. That's what people fail often, especially beginners. They don't assess the risk correctly. Everybody's getting rich in crypto. I'll get rich too. I'll mortgage my house. I'll put $50,000 in Bitcoin. It's only $35,000 now. What could go wrong? It goes doubles your money or not nearly doubles it. Why would you get out? Everyone says it's going to 100,000 by the end of the year. And I call the top. Of course, we got all kinds of trolls for that. And of course, we were right. So, you know, pay attention, because sometimes the advice you get is worth what it costs, and that's free. Sometimes you get free advice, it's broke. Now, obviously, I'm doing a lot of this for free, as you know, but I'm kind of the exception, not the rule. So, again, you can look at, you know, what I've done here on the LinkedIn page, and, you know, I got some endorsements. Chris has worked for me, helped me with the Silver Manifesto. Did a lot of good research for me on that. Don't have much else to tell you. You know, volunteer work I've done, my education. This is something, when you're on a LinkedIn page, this Four Horsemen film is for free. I don't know how you get to it. View it, I think. Yeah, that'll do it. So this movie is about the end of the age of empire. It's gotten all kinds of awards. It's kind of old now, 2013, but it's as pertinent today in 2022 as it was in 2013. I'll just leave it at that. An easy way to find it is off the LinkedIn page. Okay. I don't think there's a lot more. I don't handle this. One of my staff does. Not sure what else to go over here. I did have an outline of what's in the morning report, but I can do that later, this presentation. So let's go back to here, and let's go into the silver psyop and see if that pulls up. Silver PSY psyop. All right, here we go. Now, we only did, I think, 4 on the silver psyop. And this was one that I think the first one I did with Dave Kranzler. If you don't know who Dave Kranzler is, you could Google him. He's been in the precious metals arena for some time. He lives in Colorado. I think it's near Denver, but it might be Colorado Springs, I forget. I converse with him from time to time. You know, I'll talk to him 3 times in a month, and I won't talk to him for 3 months, but I do pay attention to his work. So I talked to him about the silver psyop. So the silver psyop is a psychological operation. That's what psyop means. And the psychological operation goes back really to gold more than silver. And there was a time when all of the, especially the maximalists, were saying that Bitcoin was gold 2.0. Bitcoin was better than gold. Bitcoin was modern gold. And why would the Bitcoin people call Bitcoin gold when it isn't gold? I mean, Bitcoin has 0 carat. You know, Canadian maple is 24 karat pure gold. I mean, you can't put a Bitcoin in somebody's hand. You can't put a Canadian maple in somebody's hand. There is a use for Bitcoin, and it's really what it was designed to do, and that's for transactions, peer-to-peer. That's what it was really designed to do. It wasn't designed to be a money, although that's how everyone thinks of it now, especially with the name coin. Oh, yes, it's a coin. So I don't want to bash Bitcoin too much, but what I do want to point out was you could take the perspective that John Perez did, that it was a psychological operation to divert money out of the precious metals and into cryptocurrency. And that's exactly what happened. Now, whether or not this was truly a psychological operation or not really can't be proven one way or the other way. So you can make up your own damn mind whether or not you think there was a psychological operation going on or not. But if you go back in history and you take a look at what was going on, there was a big association about gold and Bitcoin. Almost every sentence used both those words. And the idea was, who wants gold when you can have Bitcoin? So it was like, get out of gold, get into Bitcoin. And a lot of people did, especially on the silver side, because silver investors primarily are bigger risk takers than gold people. And a lot of precious metals bugs buy both. I'm well aware of that fact. But if you break it down between the two, gold or silver, said or, not and, you'll find that the silver people are more apt to take higher risk, which means sell my silver and jump into Bitcoin. Sell my silver, jump into Ether. Sell my silver, jump into Dogecoin, Dogecoin, however you say it. So a lot of that did take place. Again, I want to emphasize, I'm not saying it was really a psychological operation, but I can't say it wasn't. What I can say is that a hell of a lot of money that would have gone into gold and silver stopped going into gold and silver, where gold and silver were sold off back in the fiat, and that currency was put into the crypto market. And that, my friends, definitely had an influence on how well gold and silver did in paper price terms. Now that started to reverse because the crypto market has been having a rough time the last several months, as probably most of you are well aware. And some of that money has gone out of, Bitcoin, and maybe somebody bought it at sale, make up a number, $2,500. And went up to 66, and then watch it come all the way down to 20, and now it's around 23. And say, you know what? I've got 27 Bitcoin. I'm going to sell half, and I'm going to put it in gold. I'll keep the other 13 and let it ride, or whatever. That's just one hypothetical example. But there are people out there that bought in very early, and they still are sitting on large profits. And good for them. But again, it comes back to risk assessment. So I think these are worth watching. You can just watch one and kind of get the idea. Kranzler's a good one. The first one with John Perez is episode 2. John is the one that came up with the term silver psyop. John has a saying, when Bitcoin dies, silver flies. He even has a little GIF, I think they're called, on the Telegram channel, Silver is Money, which is run by John Perez. And it's got John in cartoon form, waving his hands. When Bitcoin dies, pointing down, silver flies, pointing up. It's kind of cute. Do I agree with that totally? Not necessarily, but I do agree with the idea that there was a lot of bashing of gold and getting out of gold, getting into Bitcoin. And yet, most of the people associate Bitcoin as like some type of new gold. And of course, it is not. To further that point, you can go on to something I haven't linked off of my blog, but it's our Substack. It's our Substack free newsletter. So let me see if I can find it real fast. STHK Substack, David Morgan. Should bring it up. The Morgan Report Substack. There it is. All right. So there's one in here. And these, there's not a lot. We just started this. Here it is. This one, the cow goes moo, the cat goes meow. Blockchain is blockchain and gold is gold. I mean, this is one great article. John Forrest Little, who's working with me now, wrote most of this. I did some editing. He should get all the credit. And I'll come back to this. I'll probably keep this page open for a while because we're part of the way through what I promised to present, which is the crypto conspiracy, the silver psyop, and what else was on there? So the next one is there a middle ground? The answer is yes, of course. First of all, just want to get out of there. So you can read this article. And subscribe. I highly recommend that you get on our Substack. Again, it's another free service, paid for by me, server by me. I pay John, but I present it to the public for free. And this is a really good overview of how a smart contract works. Most of you are quite familiar. What you may not be familiar with is how the banking system has usurped usurped Bitcoin. So I am trying to get to a presentation I did about a week ago, and I don't want to mess up my screen. So what I will do is just kind of talk through, is there middle ground? First of all, yes, you don't have to be all Bitcoin or all crypto or a gold. I think you can have both. I have both. I recommend both. I think there's reasons to have both. I'm not a Bitcoin fan, but again, I'm free market. If you think Bitcoin is the stalwart, the best, then own it. I don't. I think Ether has properties that are superior to it, and our recommendations in our private work for our premium service, that's a paid service, we do not have Bitcoin as a recommendation. We do have a few more. The one that we recommended highly outperformed Bitcoin about 400%, which means you made 4 times as much money in our pick as you would have if you bought the Bitcoin. And I recommended it very early. And why did I recommend cryptos after basically writing about it in a neutral way, I would say, for so many months? And the answer is Wall Street. Wall Street got involved in Bitcoin in a big way, I should say in the crypto world in a big way. And once Wall Street gets onto something, look out. But remember, Wall Street's the best, the biggest, the baddest pump and dumpers that exist. So I said, let's get in while they pump it, and let's not be here if they dump it. And so we got in, and some of it we're still holding because we have such, pretty good profits and tax consequences and all that. So it's up to the individual. I did recommend taking some profits, not necessarily complete, but partial profits, but it's up to the individual. All I do is make suggestions and tell people what I'm doing with my portfolio. So let's see. There's neutral ground. So the neutral ground is have them both. They serve different purposes. If you're one way or the other, that's fine too. Again, I'm free market. If you believe that all cryptos are crap and it's only hard money for you, well, then that's correct for you. If you believe that gold and silver are passe and cryptos are the only way of the future, well, that's for you. I mean, I will not argue with you. It's a belief. It's not something that can be proven one or the other, although over time you might be able to look backwards and say, oh my goodness, I wish I would have had physical metal. Look what happened. Or, geez, I never dreamed that gold would go poof. No one wanted the physical and everyone wanted it on a wallet. So anyway, let me go back and make a few points and look at my other screen, but I don't have my picture on. So on the neutral ground, a lot of people that, moved out of gold and into Bitcoin, or moved out of Bitcoin or into gold, or have both, whatever their position is right now. Gold has been wonderful from 2000 to 2011. 11 straight years, gold was just the place to be, because Bitcoin came out around 2009, if I remember correctly. So gold and silver both were the best commodities to own for roughly a decade. Gold was up 11 years in a row. I called the top in silver. I got close to the top in gold. And I said, we're going to back and fill. In other words, go sideways to down for a while. At the time I made the call, when I called the exact top in silver, I said that it would be 2 or 3 years. And I couldn't have been more wrong. I really thought we had such an overbought situation. It was sort of like a Bitcoin frenzy, because Bitcoin is just far, far more percentage-wise than either gold or silver did during that 10-year time. But regardless of the type of enthusiasm we saw at the top was similar to the type of enthusiasm we saw when Bitcoin hit over 66,000. So called the top, and held, sold not all, wish I had, sold a great deal. Of course, it was up to the individual investor. And then we came down and down and down and down, and then back up. So we've done kind of a U pattern in gold. And gold the last 10 years hasn't been performing that well, especially in US dollar terms. So is there neutral ground? The answer is yes. I think you should have gold in the right amount for all conditions: inflation, deflation, stagflation, depression, repression, recession, you name it. And this has been proven by a couple of studies. The Ibbotson study from Ibbotson and Associates, Harvard did a study on it, CPM Group's done a study on it. And in every one of those studies, it's very clear. The percentages vary, but the idea is that if you have gold in your portfolio, it will outperform anything else. And yet you never hear that on Wall Street. And I'll be doing an article and an interview on that and the reason why that is. But back to gold. So on this other presentation I have on my other screen that you can't see because I don't want to mess up this format, I show that from the year 2000 to today, so 22 years, the prices of gold in different currencies and what their average rate of return has been over that 22-year time frame. And so in US dollars, it's had a CAGR, a compounded annual growth rate of 9.3. So basically it's front loaded, as I just said, from 2000 to 2011. It was up 2%, 25%, 20%, 6%, 18%, 23%, 5%, 25%, 30%, and 10% over those 11 years. I read them off. And so that was one heck of a gain. And now going from there till now, I won't read every one, but up 10%, or excuse me, 7%, down 26%, down 2%, down 10%, up 8%, up 13%. Off 1.5%, up 18%, up 25%, down 4%, and year to date it's off 7 points, 0.7%. But still, in that time frame, it's had a compounded annual growth rate of 9.3%. In euros, 9%. In British pounds, 11%. In the Aussie dollar, 9%. In the Canadian dollar, 8.4%. Oh, let's see. In the Japanese yen, over 10%. In the Swiss franc, 7%. In the Indian rupee, 12%. So in all currencies, gold looks pretty good. But if it's a US dollar, then making new highs in several of those. But in US dollar terms, not necessarily. And that's what most that are on this lecture understand or think of it. Well, what's it worth in terms of USD? And that's what it is. It is what it is. If you were looking at it in Canadian dollars or Australian dollars, British pounds, or whatever, you might have a different attitude toward gold that it's really doing its job. It's up near its old high or making new highs or whatever the case may be. So that covers the neutral part, I think. Basically, the bottom line is, do you want to own one, the other? Why not own both? So does Lode have the answer? I'll get there in a minute. I just want to check before I move on if any questions have come in. So let me look real quick. Whole audience. And I do not see any. So don't be shy. If you have a question, go ahead and type them in, and I'll be happy to answer them. Oops, I'm not the best typist, as you can see. I took typing. There we go. All right. All right. Just checking one more thing here before I move on. All right. So, does Lode have the answer? I want to give some background here and do a little fundamental talking about the monetary system and where we are. Let me do it this way. What I can do is go back to members login and see if I can get in here. And well, this is our paid service or our premium service. And I am a mastermind member. There's really two levels of service. There's the premium service, which is a paid service. And then there's the mastermind, which does everything the premium does. Plus, it gives you opportunities. We do a lecture once a month or have a guest once a month. And we do provide from time to time opportunities for private placements, but you have to be an accredited investor. So most people that are in a mastermind are accredited investors and or fund managers. So there's that. So this is pretty close to what the premium page is. We always put your name at the top. If you give us one, you want to log in. It's David Morgan, so greet you by name. We did a portfolio review. I'm doing it verbally with charts every month because people, I was doing ratings, but they didn't like ratings. Some liked ratings, some didn't. Some were confused. So now I just break it down basically on the top tier and mid tier. I don't put much comment on the speculative section of the portfolio because this is money you can afford to lose. And there's really no way to know the future on these juniors. I mean, they're just too small market cap. Too volatile. Really, they bounce around and don't do much unless they either make a big discovery if they're an explorer, or they have some type of breakthrough in their technology or whatever. So if that's the case, then we look at them under a microscope and recommend adding the position or not. All right, so updates are here. Let me just show you real quick the latest issue. It's in a PDF format. Of course, I can make it bigger. And this is last month's. I usually write the editorial. We featured Hecla, which is a lot better buy right now than Pan American. Pan American got beat up bad. We will be talking about that. We've been reporting on the blockchain for years. Aya is one that we kicked in early. If you haven't looked it up, look it up. It's phenomenal. It's moving up while a lot of other things down. We guarantee as a paid member that you get to talk to me or one of the staff through email. We guarantee you will get a response. And then, of course, the asset allocation table is what we have suggested as holdings that will balance the risk assessment, as I keep emphasizing about the risk in crypto or the risk in gold, or the risk in stocks, the risk in bonds, the risk in the housing market. You want to be able to assess the risk. That's why diversification is important. There are times to over invest in a certain sector or under invest in a certain sector. There are times to have a more balanced approach. So obviously, I'm not going to read the whole editorial to you, and I hope I'm not scrolling too quickly to give anyone dizzy. But let me go back here. And what you can see is, if you scroll way down here, the newsletter archives. So just get this black bar. I kind of wish my webmaster did a little different. These are all the research reports on all the companies that we follow. These are some why the titles I should say special reports. The books that we've written are all here. Silver Institute stuff you can get off the web for free, but we just put it here as a courtesy. Again, I'm not sure why I don't have a banner up here. For example, this Gold Clause book written by Dr. Vieira. Basically, you want to work for somebody or create your own contract. It shows you how to do it to get paid in gold and silver. There's a bit to it, but it's legally correct if you are in the US. So there's that. The companies I just said. These are updates that we give out. It shows the date. Silver update with member questions. I mean, I'll do that real quickly. Kind of get a feel for it. I'll let it play. I don't know if it comes through because we're going through two servers here, but did this not that long ago, August 17th.
Hello, everyone. It is David, and I'm using my webcam. I'm not going to have it on for long.
There's a couple updates, really two questions from the members that are really important. So when they're, I think, very useful to the membership, I do them in this manner. I make a video so everyone see what the question is, or questions, and what my responses are. All right, so that's kind of enough of that. You get the idea. So that's the written report. A lot of video work for the premium members, for paid people. See, what I wanted to do basically was go back to the archives. So I'm a bit lost. You know, that's going to go to Substack. I'm not sure where I'm at here. Sorry about that, folks. Want to go to the next screen. I think I removed it. Let's see what happens. You know, when I do that, I'll have to log in again. So the point I was going to make, I was going to bring up the report and kind of go over it and read it to you, but I can do it from memory. So if you go back, I think it was around April of this year, I wrote an article, the editorial, about what the elite want from Davos World Economic Forum on the new monetary system. And what they want was elucidated by Mark Carney, who at the time, or before, slightly before that, was the head of the Bank of England. He is no longer holding that position, but he gave the same speech at Davos, or better known as World Economic Forum, the United Nations, and Jackson, Wyoming, which is where the Fed meets. So he said it to the Fed, he said it to the UN, and he said it to Davos. So you can't get three more powerful, august bodies than those three. I mean, you might consider it to be Washington, D.C., London, and the Vatican. In that speech, which was kind of a repeat, he said that what we need, what we want, and what must take place is a central bank digital currency, which is backed by absolute zero using MMT, modern money theory, which anyone that doesn't know what that is, you can look it up. I'm sure this audience is sophisticated enough to know what that means. And what that means is you can print money to infinity. And the theory of modern money theory is that what's always happened in the past, 100% of the time, no longer applies. That you can print to ad infinitum and nothing will happen that's bad or messes up the currency system or the economy. Why anyone could come up with that belief or that idea or especially promote it is beyond me, but that's what I'm calling it. So central bank digital currency, modern money theory, backed by absolutely nothing. And there would be no currency. There would be a cashless one. Everyone would be forced into it. And they didn't really talk about social credit scores, although that would probably be applied as well. And they would have ultimate control. They, meaning the power elite, the money masters, the bankers. They would have the algorithms, and they would be able to see everything that's in your account and how you spend your money, what you spend it on, how often you buy gas, how often you go to the grocery store, how often you go out to a restaurant, how often you buy clothes, all that stuff. Whereas that goes into big data, and then of course based on certain algorithms, you would get feedback over time about, well, you're buying too much food, or you're shopping here, or you should be there, and on it goes. So it's a way to track, trace, and tax every transaction. Now that's what they want. That's what they have outlined. That's what they've spoken about. Doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to take place. So I am of the belief that as outlined in that movie, The End of the Age of Empire, the Four Horsemen film is in it. The Four Horsemen film. Put in film after the Four Horsemen, otherwise you'll get the original Four Horsemen. And you will see what the end of the Age of Empire looks like. That's what we are experiencing today and have been experiencing for some time. And it will continue. And it means I would say an end, but an ending of globalism. Now, most people are of the belief that, at least in my experience, most people are of the belief that the globalists are all powerful and they're going to get their way and they're going to create the new monetary system. There's not a damn thing we can do about it. Whine, cry, resist, be an activist, do whatever. And that's all good. but they are losing power. And the reason we know that is that we're starting to see it in plain view, which means Russia, for example, starts basing some of their transactions in rubles only, which means that the domination of the hegemony of the United States dollar is getting weaker and weaker as more and more settlements are done in alternative currencies to the dollar. And this will continue. And you also see a breakdown in the global supply chain, which we're witnessing. You'll see more and more countries protecting themselves. In other words, like Ukraine, we're not shipping out wheat because we hadn't grown as much. We need it for our own people. And you'll see more and more of that. Brazil, the BRICS countries especially, but countries will take care of themselves. So the whole world economic system is changing, and it will continue to change. And it will be more toward nationalism, looking after our own tribe first, looking after our Canadian tribe, our Australian tribe, our Japan tribe, or you name it. Doesn't mean there'll be a cessation of trade, but it means that it will be curtailed from what it once was, meaning that the global empire is going the other way. And that trend is established and will continue. So now back to this article. But the last feature I wanted to do here, and of course take some questions, was about, does Lode have the answer? Now, in this article on Substack, talking about the blockchain and how it works, and a lot of really good information here. Again, it's free. And then we get down here, so you can scroll down. You should read the whole thing in my view, but blending the good of gold and the inevitability of the blockchain. And I won't read this all to you, but talks about a Lode project. Now, I need to be full disclosure. And I am what's called an ambassador for the Lode project. So you might call that promoter. I don't like that word, but you can call me whatever you want. I was introduced to the basic concept in Vancouver, British Columbia, at the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference several years ago. At my side was David Smith. And I think there were about 14 people involved in this rather lengthy discussion of what was going on with Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies. And everybody was anxious to find a slot into this booming, new, exciting industry of blockchain. And I was kind of a holdout, waiting for something of substance. I wanted to see a blockchain that was connected to gold and silver, or at least silver. Well, this one started out to be silver only, which was very intriguing to me, of course. And the way you could participate in the Lode project wasn't with Bitcoin or Ether or fiat. The only way you could participate in Lode at the beginning was to load the mother lode, or the monetary mass, with silver. So the only way to participate was to put silver into the system. And the minimum was 100 ounces, and many people did. I'm one of them. As things progressed, I added to that position and added more silver into the project. And out of the Lode project, you spin off two coins. One is AGX, which is a gram of silver, and the other is AUX, which is a grain of gold. So a grain of gold is roughly $7. And a gram of silver is what, 30 grams, so less than $1, 80 cents, something like that. Do the math in your head better than me, somewhere in that. So we talk about what's happened, or the unique uses of gold, as most of you will be listening to me are aware of. Talks about how the Lode token works. So here's my premise. One, I am biased since I am involved. But if you are involved or thinking about getting involved with a crypto or digital currency that's backed by gold and silver, read the contract, please. Because many of them, although they may be tied to gold or silver, you cannot get to gold and silver. You have to settle in fiat. So it's basically the same as owning an ETF. You have access to the price movement, but no access to actually collect in physical metal. and that's not true with Lode. You can. So, and also some of the liability that some of these other programs that are probably better known than the Lode project. There's one very popular, but unfortunately, from my perspective, and again, I'm biased, the liability isn't there. I mean, they can basically says we could steal your gold and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. I'm emphasizing a little bit, but I'm not exaggerating much. So you got to be a little careful. And you also want to be careful no matter how good it is or who's recommending it or what your belief system is. Again, risk assessment. I look at this as a tool in the toolbox. It's a way to move gold or silver around with your phone. I just did it a couple recently. I had a gentleman that wanted to pay me for my premium service in Lode tokens, and I said fine. And it was a 3-second transaction. Once we settled on amount of AGX, it went very fast. And then I bought some books with a Citizens for Sound Money. They have a children's book. I bought 10 of them, and they accept Lode tokens, AGX. So I paid for AGX. And then one of my workers contributed. I paid them AGX. So I made like 3 transactions in a 2-day time frame, which at some point in the future we'll probably all be doing, not necessarily with Lode, but with some type of digital currency. I think it's pretty inevitable that we are going to see the payment network of the future coming down. So is Lode the answer? It's kind of up to you. I think, again, if I was going to quote unquote recommend it, I would say tread carefully, make it one of the tools out of your toolbox. I mean, I would never, of the 10 or 20% allocation in the precious metals sector that I say is correct for most people, of that 20%, I'd only risk maybe 10% of that to the Lode project or any crypto that's asset backed like Kinesis or there's Pro Gold. There's a few out there. There's probably 5 or 6, but I'm not familiar with all of them, I'll be honest. So that's kind of where I wanted to go. I didn't want to take much more than an hour. And I don't see any questions, so we still have over 100 people. So thank you for your attention. Let me put a couple things up here for you. One is to learn more about the Lode project. You should be able to go to ag.lode.one. And if that doesn't work, then it's https and that colon ag.lode. Baby, tell my typing skills. Looks like that's the URL. So let me hit control and click that. And here you get to the landing page for the Lode project. A lot of it's pretty simple. I would suggest highly watching this Imagine video. I think it's only about 3 minutes long. And these other 2 aren't very long either. It gives kind of an overview. You can read whatever you want. If you really want to get involved, we have, I think, the best sales team out there. It's not about how good they sell. It's about how good they interface with the customer or the new client, answering all their questions, helping them get a wallet installed on their phone, answering all questions and that type of thing. I don't know of anyone else in the industry that does what we do for the client or potential client. I mean, you can call up and have a one-on-one, and you will, learn what you learn and decide it's not for you or whatever, and that's fine. So that is about it. In summary, we're in interesting times. We are at a point, an inflection point, where the world is changing. It's going to change more and more rapidly. We're going to get a new value system. And in that value system, I do believe there's a spiritual component to it, more than just an economic component. As Einstein purportedly said, he dreaded the day when our technology got ahead of our humanity. Whether he said that or not, I can't prove. What I can do is comment on that. I believe that's probably pretty apropos to what I've witnessed in my life, my addiction to my iPhone, how much I use the darn thing, and how much less interaction I have in the physical realm with the illness and all that's gone on in the last few years. And again, there's a spiritual component from my perspective, which means that we got to get back to basics. I think the most important thing in the human experience is the other human beings. It's our relationships with others, and that means a direct relationship, not a selfie that's on a platform of social media that shows everyone how good you look or what you're eating or driving or whatever. And I'm not against any of that, but it needs to be put in perspective. It needs to become more real with ourselves and with everyone else. So not to be too philosophical, but I do believe it's a spiritual war for good versus evil, as much as good money versus bad money, good system versus bad system, freedom versus slavery. You can put it in a lot of different contexts. One of the best videos I've made, I can go back to my channel, which I probably can't. Yeah, go back to YouTube, and
joining me today is,
we do a search here and put in matrix, matrix. I did this. It's only 2 minutes and 31 seconds. I did this to really try to bring in younger people. Got 105,000 views, made 11 years ago. But it was a direct takeoff of the matrix. A lot of people liked it. It actually cost me a small fortune because I had a paid actor across from me. And I had to pay him, and I had a studio cameraman from the studios down in Burbank. And this 2.5-minute video probably took about 4 hours to make. Because it's, I mean, my acting is pretty minimal. I mean, it's not very good. It's my best. I'm not an actor. But anyway, the point was well received, I think. The sponsor was actually Silver Stamp. They're still in business. They don't sell a lot of silver. It's kind of a boutique thing down in LA. But talks about freedom. There's others here, and you can see. So I don't make this too much about me. Let me look at, I've already talked enough, I think, but I also want to be here for you. And I don't see any questions. So let me go back to my little Word document. So that's how to look at Lode. So questions that may come up, just go ahead and type to support at morganreport.com, and then the subject line, just put in some of the effect of Investors Expo, and I will tell my webmaster to forward those to me. I will say one more thing, and this is important for those that are, let's say, heavily involved in this market. If you are going to buy physical metal in size, meaning like in the 100,000 euro range, 100,000 US range, definitely send a email to support at the Morgan Report, and I can help you a great deal buying very close to wholesale that you're not going to get from any of the heavily known retail dealers on the internet. I know most of them on a first name basis. Most of them are very good people, and they do a great job, and they do provide a good service. But if you're up in the 100,000 more, you can save $2 an ounce on silver. Why not? So if you are in that realm, definitely would pay to contact me. No obligation. There's no one going to solicit you, really. I will connect you with who I do business with, for the most part, where I store my and you can have a conversation for free and make your own determination. So I think that's where I want to leave it. Hopefully it's been of value, at least part of it. Again, I'm not against Bitcoin. I'm for freedom. That would be my main message. The war goes on. The war on gold continues. But the war on gold is really a metaphor for the war on our freedom. And you can have all the gold in the world and be wealthy as heck. And if you're not allowed to go where you want to go, say what you want to see, visit who you want to visit, broadcast the ideas that you hold or cherish, be with the people you want, travel where you want. If you can't do those things, it really doesn't matter how much. If once you've given up your freedom, you've basically given up everything. So I'll leave it at that. Sorry for the phone being on. I thought I had it off. I usually do. We'll leave it there. Anna, I don't know if you're still on board with me. I will basically just end it here. So folks, again, if you have questions, support@themorganreport.com. And with that in mind, I guess I will close out if I can figure out how to end the webinar there. Stop recording.
Thank you so much.